As the old saying goes, 50% of doctors graduated in the bottom half of their class. The same could be said about economists. The same could be said about stock market experts. The same could be said about anyone making predictions as we get ready to roll in to 2024. And as a financial advisor, you need to be wary. Number one, you need to make sure you don't follow these things blindly and get yourself and your clients in a bad spot. And number two, if your clients are following these individuals, you need to know how to dig in to identify if the predictions even make sense. We'll dig into that right now.
This is The Rare Advisor, proud to be a part of the Advisor Advancement Network and home of a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. Your host is Mike Walters, CEO of USA Financial. He is an investment advisor representative of and securities are offered through USA Financial Securities, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
Hey, as we come close to the year end here and kind of wrap things up and get ready to launch into 2024, I want to share two quick things with you here today. Number one, first of all, is pointing you to the free report that's out there right now. It's called the Advisor's 12-Step Reset for Predictable Growth, Value, and Lifestyle. It's a great way to take a full analysis and kind of a high-altitude view of your practice, identifying what's best for your P&L, what's best for your growth, what's best for the valuation of your practice, and it will give you a good kind of basic roadmap of things that could probably help you grow in the near future. So I encourage you to go take advantage of that. It's absolutely free of charge. It's at the landing page, www.12stepreset.com. The second and more important thing that I want to talk to you about today is the fact that when we get to this time of the year and we're ready to turn that page over for a new calendar year, all of the predictions start coming out of the woodwork, and certain individuals are kind of famous for the outlandish predictions that they tend to make, and they can be very dangerous for you, for your investors, or for an advisor who's listening to them on behalf of and acting on behalf of their investors. So I want you to just be aware of what's going on in the market right now, what's being said in the media right now, and understand kind of what the sources are if you're going to listen to these individuals. Now, I'm going to go through an example using Harry Dent. Harry Dent has been well known in the financial advisory world for many years. I believe he still does. I know he used to sell content to financial advisors and information to financial advisors. So, has quite a following. But this could be said about anyone who's making predictions. Know who the economist is. Know who the stock market expert is, know what their track record is, and do their predictions make sense? So if we take a look at this is an article written in October of 23 in Think Advisor, talking about Harry Dent, calling for the crash of a lifetime, and saying that it's going to be the biggest crash of our lifetime. In fact, predicting a shocking 86% nosedive for the S&P 500, says there's an everything bubble across stocks, crypto, housing, and such. And then this is an interesting statement. Basically says, do not listen to your financial advisor. Again, given his history, and maybe he's not in that space anymore. I'm not really sure. But I found that to be kind of an interesting statement, not to listen to your financial advisor. Nonetheless, let's take a look at what the track record is. So Think Advisor also wrote an article. This one was back in 21, at the end of 21, taking a look at Harry Dent's stock market and economic predictions and kind of their track record. Now, to give him credit where credit is due, he did call for the bubble burst in Japan in 1989. He did correctly predict the bursting of the dot-com bubble, and he did get some credit for predicting the populist groundswell that Donald Trump enjoyed getting into the presidency. Now, beyond that, some of his predictions, outlandish or not, have struggled in the success category. So in 1999, he called for the roaring 2000s. As we know, this did not happen. In fact, it became the lost decade because at the end of that time frame, the markets ended lower than they were at the end of 1999 when we got to the end of 2009. Then in 2006, he called for the next great bubble boom. But as we know, in 2008, we got hit with a financial crisis and did not have a boom. Then in 2008, he turned around and went the other direction and said, let's call for the Great Depression ahead. And from 09 to 21, we saw anything but. We had a large market rally, and it finished with respectable gains throughout that time frame. Then in December of 2016, he said the Dow was going to drop down to 5,000. and it actually ended up hitting 35,550 in December of 2022. 2017 said there was going to be a major crash in 3 years. And, things were maybe up and down a little bit with the pandemic and so on and so forth. But by the end of 2020, the index had posted a gain of over 16% for the year. Then in March of 21, said the biggest crash ever by the end of June, and that most equities would drop 80%, which did not happen. And then now in November of 21, saying the stock market crash of early 2022. And with that, as we know, if we look at the stock market, that did not happen by looking at that. And yet here we are looking at the now predictions. So here, right here, he said, this is a quote, "The economy isn't going to get strong again until 2024. Think about that. The economy is not going to get strong again until 2024. And yet in 2024, we're calling for the crash of a lifetime and an 86% nosedive on the S&P 500. So the contradictions start to make you kind of scratch your head a little bit. And again, just be wary when you're looking at and or taking predictions to heart, especially if you're working with your clientele, or maybe your clientele are following these predictions. And what you might need to do is poke around and do a little research so that you can list out for them, does the source making the predictions make sense? Do they have a good track record? Have they been correct? Do they have good data? Do they have good analysis? And does their prediction actually make sense? So be careful, because there are dangerous economists and there are very dangerous predictions.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.